Usually someone loses a friend, a family member, an entire village, or, some overpowered villain decides to ruin their life. But Hiromi Higuruma? This man snapped because he won a case. Yeah, he did everything a lawyer is supposed to do, proved his client deserved justice, walked out with a victory, and that's exactly what destroyed him. And once you understand why, you'll realize Jujutsu Kaisen wasn't just giving us another cool character. It was secretly giving us one of the smartest explanations of the Japanese court system you'll ever see in anime. And honestly, once you see it, you can't unsee it. When people talk about Higuruma, they usually remember the culling game, deadly sentencing, Judgeman, or that absolutely insane fight against Yuji. But all of that is just the result. The real story starts way before curses, domains, and executioner's swords. It starts inside a courtroom. Here's the number that changes everything. Japan convicts roughly 99.9% of criminal trials that reach a verdict. At first you hear that number and think, okay, that's anime being dramatic? Nope. That's actually real, but it doesn't mean Japanese courts are unbelievably good at catching criminals. It means the filtering happens before trial. Prosecutors follow something called precision justice. They only bring charges when a guilty verdict is basically locked in. Think of a teacher who only lets you take the exam after already deciding you'll pass. Out of every case police send over, well over half never even get indicted. Losing in court isn't just embarrassing for a Japanese prosecutor, it's a career hit. So by the time a trial actually happens, the real decision was often made somewhere else already. And there's a darker gear turning underneath that. The system leans hard on confessions. Suspects can be detained and interrogated for up to 23 days without a lawyer present. Critics call this hostage justice. That's an enormous amount of pressure, and it's exactly the kind of pressure that produces confessions whether or not someone actually did it. Now, in 2009, Japan tried to soften that machine. It introduced the Saibanin system, 6 ordinary citizens sitting alongside 3 professional judges to decide serious criminal cases together. On paper, it's democratization, regular people getting a real seat at the table. Except there's a catch, and it's the catch that basically writes Higuruma's whole character for him. A guilty verdict still needs at least one professional judge on board. The public gets a voice, not control. Everything looks more open, more balanced, but the levers that actually matter never leave the same hands they were always in. Keep that architecture in your head, because it's the exact shape of the trap Higuruma spends his entire life inside. Which brings us to the real question. Why does Akutami build his emotional gut punch around a lawyer? Because a lawyer is the one professional whose entire job is to assume the system can be wrong. Doctors treat bodies, soldiers follow orders. A defense attorney's whole existence is a bet that certainty is dangerous, that even a 99.9% conviction rate can still be hiding an innocent person inside that 0.1%. Higuruma isn't fighting criminals, he's fighting certainty itself. That's why breaking him required beating him with his own tools, not with a monster. This absolute madman spent his career intentionally picking the cases everyone else avoided. The impossible ones, the ones where acquittal looked hopeless. Other lawyers thought he was punishing himself. Maybe they weren't wrong. His entire philosophy fits in one line. Even if I'm the only one, I want to keep my eyes open. He isn't pretending the system is fair. He's just trying to stay honest inside a machine that rewards certainty over truth. Then comes the case that ends him. A teenager named Keita Oe is accused of a double murder in Morioka City. Every surface detail screams guilty, caught running from police, a bloody knife, DNA that matches the victims. If you only read the headlines, you'd stop right there. Higuruma doesn't. He digs, and instead of a monster, he finds a teenager crushed by circumstance, an abusive work situation, a police record built on guilt by association, a believable explanation for the knife. He fights, he wins, Keita walks free. Roll credits, right? No. Then the appeal comes, the verdict gets overturned, and here's why it matters so much. The story doesn't hand you a cartoon villain. No mustache-twirling judge, no bribe in a briefcase. What breaks Higuruma is quieter and worse than that. The system works exactly the way it was designed to work. That design just leaves almost no room for genuine justice once the machine starts moving. He didn't lose because he was lazy or made a mistake. He lost after doing everything right. That's like climbing an entire mountain only to watch someone quietly move the finish line after you reach it. In most countries, once you're acquitted, that's it. Double jeopardy protects you, not in Japan. Prosecutors can appeal a not guilty verdict, and they do, aggressively, because remember, losing is a career wound. So overturning a loss on appeal isn't just legally possible, it's institutionally incentivized. The system that let Higuruma win in the first place was never designed to let that win stick. He wasn't just fighting for Keita's freedom, he was fighting a machine that had a built-in mechanism to take it back. That's what makes this different from a normal legal thriller twist. It's not a plot contrivance, it's a real, documented feature of Japanese criminal procedure, one that quietly punishes defense attorneys for succeeding. Higuruma didn't get outmaneuvered, he got outstructured. And there's no curse technique for that, no domain expansion that fixes a system working exactly as intended. So when he snaps, it isn't a breakdown, it's a diagnosis. He looked directly at the machine and, for the first time in his career, stopped pretending it was fixable from inside it. That's the moment everything inside him collapses. He awakens his curse technique. Right there in open court, he kills the judge. He kills the prosecutor. From that instant on, Hiromi Higuruma stops being a defense attorney and becomes something else entirely. Every cynical speech, every cold expression, every decision in the culling game, it all traces back to this 1 second. Now, here's where the fight against Yuji Itadori stops being a normal shonen battle and turns into a courtroom drama wearing boxing gloves. Higuruma puts Yuji on trial for the Shibuya massacre. Legally, Yuji didn't commit those killings, Sukuna did, using Yuji's body. Any rational defendant fights that point. Yuji doesn't. He confesses, not because the legal facts say he's guilty, but because he personally accepts responsibility anyway. That's the exact second Higuruma's worldview starts breaking apart. His whole technique depends on one belief. Cornered people always choose themselves first. Yuji simply refuses to play by that rule, not through power, through values. Higuruma spent years hunting for integrity inside courtrooms and finally finds it standing in front of Judgment. And Judgment itself is such a clever design. Deadly sentencing doesn't just declare people guilty because Higuruma wills it. The domain already knows everything about everyone inside it, but that knowledge still has to survive an actual trial. Evidence gets presented, arguments matter, the verdict depends on the case, not on what Higuruma personally wants. That's why the fight works. JJK builds its battles on rules, and the thrill comes from watching characters find the crack in them. So, when Yuji finally breaks the system, it isn't with a bigger punch, it's with a legal argument. Extremely on brand for this show. One last detail, cause Akatami never misses, Higuruma's name is a pun on Himawari, meaning sunflower. Lawyers in Japan wear a sunflower and scales pin as their badge. He's a man whose entire identity was welded to the law, who loses that identity and spends the rest of the story trying to earn it back, not through blind faith in the system, but through something bigger. Justice and the system are not automatically the same thing. That's the lesson Higuruma learns the hardest way there is. Not because of his domain expansion, not because of the executioner's sword, but because underneath all of it is a man who believed the law would always protect justice, only to find out the two were never guaranteed to walk hand in hand. And somehow, Jujutsu Kaisen explained all of that in the middle of a fight. And that's it for today. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.